Hey there, my dear friends. I'm Mary Ellen Thompson, 68 years young, speaking from the heart of Springfield, Ohio. Today, I'm tearing open the deepest wound of my life, a story so raw, so soul-shattering, it'll grip your heart and hold it tight. For 26 years, I thought I knew the man I shared my dreams with, the man I built a home with. Then, I uncovered a secret so vile it turned my world to ashes. My husband was living a double life, with a secret family in Los Angeles, California, while I raised our 3 kids here in Ohio, completely blind to his lies. Before I dive in, please smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, it means the world to keep sharing these truths, and drop a comment telling me what state you're watching from. I love knowing my stories reaching every corner of this great nation. Grab a coffee, settle in, this tale's long, but I swear it's worth every second. It broke me, rebuilt me, and taught me it's never too late to reclaim your worth as a woman. Picture this: 26 years of marriage, 26 years believing I knew my husband, Robert Thompson, inside and out. Then, like a dagger to the soul, I learned it was all a lie. My ex-husband had another wife and kids in Los Angeles while I was here, thinking I was his one and only. But hold on, friends, this story starts with agony but ends with justice and a Mary Ellen stronger than ever. At 68, I'm happier than I've been in decades. All because I dared to unearth the truth and made that man pay for his deception. The revenge I crafted was so precise, so devastating. People in Springfield still whisper about it. Let's walk through this step by step, because you need every detail to feel the weight of what I endured. Let's rewind to 1968. I was 22, working as a secretary at Springfield City Hall, typing memos and answering phones in a world where women's opportunities were slim. I'd graduated high school in 1964, top of my class, and landed this job to help my parents with bills. My dad, Arthur Thompson, was a beloved elementary school teacher at Lincoln Elementary, known for making fractions fun. My mom, Clara, was a homemaker, raising me and my 4 siblings, 2 sisters, Linda and Grace, and 2 brothers, Tommy and Paulin, our cozy brick home in Lincoln Park. Our backyard was Mom's pride, bursting with roses, lavender, and a small herb garden where she'd teach us to pinch basil just right. Springfield was smaller then, a tight-knit town where neighbors swapped casseroles and kids played kickball until dusk. I missed that warmth, that sense of everyone being in it together. As the eldest, I carried a heavy load. After work, I'd help Mom with dinner, her famous pot roast or chicken and dumplings, clean the kitchen, and wrangle my siblings for homework or baths. Weekends, I'd stroll through Courthouse Square with my best friends, Betty and Joan, always with a chaperone, as was proper then. We'd giggle over boys, dream of big futures, and sip cherry cokes at Woolworth's counter. It was a simpler time, rooted in family values, Sunday Mass at St. Joseph's Church, and community picnics. Dad preached education and honest work as the path to a good life. Mom taught my sisters and me to be strong yet devoted to family, always saying, "A woman's heart is her greatest strength, but her mind is her shield." It was at Courthouse Square, during the 1968 Clark County Fair, that I met Robert Thompson. Picture him, tall, tan, with warm brown eyes and a smile that could light up the night. He stood by the fountain, sharp in a gray suit, his mustache neatly trimmed, looking like he'd stepped out of a Cary Grant movie. My friends and I passed by a few times, pretending not to notice, but I felt his gaze like a warm breeze. He approached respectfully, tipping his hat and asking if he could buy me an ice cream cone, but only after introducing himself to Linda and our cousin Rachel. Back then, a girl didn't talk to a man alone. Robert was 28, from Canton, Ohio, but had moved to Springfield to study accounting at Wittenberg University. He worked part-time at a local construction firm, balancing their books, and was finishing his degree. He spoke of big dreams, owning a construction company, building homes for American families, leaving a legacy. His ambition was magnetic, his voice steady yet warm. I was captivated. He was the man I'd always pictured marrying, the kind who'd sweep you off your feet but still kneel to ask your father's blessing. His financial ease raised questions. For a student, he had too much money, fancy suits, dinners at Springfield's best spots like the Golden Lamb, perfumes, and small gold trinkets for me. He claimed it came from savings inherited when his parents died young, invested in Canton real estate's mall apartment buildings he'd flipped for profit, plus his accounting gigs for contractors. He had a knack for numbers, he said, and knew how to make money work. It sounded plausible, and I didn't dig deeper. He'd canceled dates last minute, citing urgent trips for construction bids or issues with distant uncles in Canton, disappearing for days, only to return with lavish gifts: a silk scarf, a gold bracelet to smooth things over. I brushed it off, thinking an ambitious man had responsibilities. He never introduced me to his friends or coworkers, saying they were too rough for a proper lady like me. I didn't push women, were taught to trust blindly then, to let men lead. Looking back, I missed red flags. He dodged talk of his Canton family, saying his parents died in a car accident when he was 10, leaving him raised by distant uncles he barely saw now. He never took me to meet them, claiming they were scattered or estranged. He'd get letters, read them in private, then burn them in the backyard, saying they were work-related or old debts settled. When I asked, he'd smile and change the subject. Something felt off, but love clouded my judgment. For 9 months, Robert courted me traditionally. He'd visit our home on Sundays, bringing Mom's favorite daisies, and charming Dad with talk of local politics. He asked their permission to take me to church socials or the drive-in, always with Linda or Rachel tagging along. Once, he hired the Buckeye Trio, a local band, to serenade me with Love Me Tender outside our house. Neighbors clapped from their porches. Dad grilled him like a detective, asking about his plans, his faith, his finances. Robert answered with confidence, promising to build a stable life. Mom saw him as hardworking, serious, a good match. My siblings adored him. Tommy and Paul begged for piggyback rides, while Linda and Grace whispered he was dreamy. But there were moments that nagged at me. During a picnic at Snyder Park, he got a call on a payphone and stepped away, speaking in hushed tones, his face tense. He returned with a smile, saying it was a supplier issue, but his eyes didn't meet mine. At a church dance, he seemed distracted, checking his watch, leaving early for a work emergency. I ignored these signs, swept up in his charm and the life he promised. On Valentine's Day 1970, Robert proposed at the Arcade Hotel, the table draped in red roses, a violinist playing Can't Help Falling in Love. He knelt with a stunning diamond ring sparkling under the chandelier and said, "Mary Ellen, you're my forever will. You make me the luckiest man alive." I said yes through tears, the restaurant erupting in cheers. Dad, usually stoic, hugged me tight. Mom cried tears of joy. It felt like a fairy tale. We married on August 15, 1970, at St. Joseph's Church, with over 200 guests, family, neighbors, church friends. Dad walked me down the aisle, his eyes misty. Mom adjusted my veil, whispering I looked like an angel. My gown was lace, simple but elegant, with a long train. Robert looked dashing in his black tux, his smile wide. The backyard reception was a Springfield legend-catered barbecue, Mom's apple pies, and the Ohio River Band. Playing until 4 a.m. we danced to Unchained Melody, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. For our honeymoon, Robert whisked me to Miami Beach, staying at the Fontainebleau with ocean views. He was attentive, buying me seashell necklaces and straw hats, dining at seafood shacks. We strolled the beach at night, waves crashing, as he promised to make me the happiest woman forever. I believed every word. We settled in a charming rented house in Kenwood, 2 bedrooms, a backyard where I planted daisies, and a kitchen where I perfected Robert's favorite meatloaf and mashed potatoes. The first 2 years were bliss. Robert landed a solid job as an accountant for a construction company with state contracts, earning enough for our home and small luxuries like a new Frigidaire refrigerator. I quit my job, as was common, to focus on our home and prepare for kids. We'd host neighbors for potlucks, play cards with Betty and her husband, and attend church socials. Life felt perfect, like we were building something real. In 1972, our son Bobby was born, filling me with the joy I'd never known. Robert was over the moon, cradling his firstborn, buying him tiny baseball caps and a teddy bear bigger than the crib. In 1974, our daughter Clara arrived, with big blue eyes like her dad's. In 1976, our youngest, Arthur, named after my dad, completed our family. With 3 kids, life was a whirlwind but fulfilling. Robert was a doting dad when home, playing catch with Bobby, reading to Clara, tickling Arthur until he squealed. We'd take Sunday drives to Buck Creek State Park, picnic by the water, and laugh as the kids chased fireflies. Neighbors called us the perfect family, and my heart swelled with pride. But even in those early years, small cracks appeared. Robert would get late-night calls, stepping outside to talk, saying it was a client with a payroll issue. Once, I overheard him mention a friend in LA needing help, but when I asked, he said it was an old college buddy, nothing more. I'd find receipts in his pockets for restaurants or motels in cities he hadn't mentioned visiting. He'd laugh it off, saying he forgot to mention a quick stop. I trusted him, chalking it up to his busy life. By 1978, Robert's career skyrocketed. He went from accountant to partnering with his boss on projects, then launched Thompson Construction in 1979, building homes and municipal offices across Ohio. His success came from leveraging state contracts and flipping small properties, warehouses, and duplexes using his accounting skills to manage cash flow tightly. He'd pore over ledgers at night, explaining how he'd secured low-interest loans and negotiated with suppliers to maximize profits. We bought a big house in Ridgewood's sprawling lawn, two-car garage, a wraparound porch where I'd sip lemonade and watch the kids play. But as his business grew, so did his absences. He claimed trips to Columbus, Cincinnati, and Chicago were for bigger contracts, supplier meetings, or site inspections, often gone for weeks. I managed the kids and house alone, keeping the family running like a well-oiled machine. At first, I didn't mind his daily calls were full of updates, stories of deals closed, and love for the kids. He'd send postcards from every city, scribbled with notes like, "Miss my little sluggers," for Bobby and Arthur, or for my princess Clara. But by 1982, his trips grew longer and more frequent. He announced a new venture, construction projects in Los Angeles for affluent American clients, suburban homes for families moving to the booming West Coast. He'd partnered with a US-based contractor, a man named Ed Sullivan, who had connections in LA's real estate market. Robert said it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to break into a lucrative market, requiring long stays to oversee site planning, permits, and labor. To fund this, he opened the second set of books, funneling Ohio profits into LA projects while maintaining our lifestyle through a separate account managed by a trusted bookkeeper, Mr. Jenkins, who'd worked with him since his accounting days. Robert explained it as smart business, keeping the Ohio and LA finances separate to avoid tax headaches. I believed him, proud of his ambition, unaware he was laying the foundation for a secret life. To sustain his double life, Robert was meticulous. He used his accounting expertise to create a shell company in LA, West Coast Builds, registered under a pseudonym with Ed as the frontman. Ohio profits were funneled through fake invoices for consulting services or equipment rentals, siphoning funds to LA without raising red flags. He'd fly economy to keep costs low, staying in cheap motels while claiming to be at upscale hotels, and used payphones to call me, avoiding traceable hotel lines. He kept two sets of documents, one for our Ohio taxes, clean and legitimate, and another for his LA dealings, hidden in a locked briefcase. His charm and quick thinking covered any slip-ups, and I, trusting and busy with 3 kids, didn't question the details. From 1982 to 1990, Robert's routine was set. 2 weeks in LA, a week or 2 home, then back west. When home, he was the ideal husband, helping Bobby with math homework, braiding Clara's hair, teaching Arthur to ride a bike. We'd go to mass, dine at local steakhouses like the Hickory Inn, or host barbecues where he'd grill burgers and tell stories of his big deals. Ran the household solo during his absences, juggling school runs, soccer practices, and parent-teacher meetings. Bobby, now in high school, was a responsible big brother, helping Clara with spelling and keeping Arthur out of trouble. Clara was a Strata student, dreaming of becoming a teacher like her grandpa. Arthur, the mischievous one, loved pranks but had a heart of gold, always sneaking me extra hugs. Robert ensured we never wanted for money, depositing funds monthly into an account I could access, claiming his LA projects were booming thanks to demand for suburban homes in places like Encino and Pasadena. His gifts from trips were extravagant Lego sets for the kids, designer dresses from I. Magnin for me. In 1984, he brought a Sony color TV and VCR, a rare luxury then. The kids hosted movie nights, watching The Goonies with friends, and I felt proud to provide such treats. But doubts crept in. He refused to let me join him in LA, saying the kids needed me and his motels weren't family-friendly. Calls from LA had odd noises, kids laughing, music, a woman's voice, not office sounds. He dismissed it as noisy motels or nearby tenants. Photos I gave him to carry returned pristine. He said seeing them made him too homesick to work. I trusted him, pushing aside unease, but the inconsistencies piled up. By 1987, Robert's behavior shifted further. He locked his desk drawer, citing sensitive contracts for LA City Projects community centers and low-income housing, he claimed, which required confidentiality. Late night or early morning calls, supposedly from us clients unaware of time zones, were taken behind closed doors. He'd emerge looking tense, brushing off my questions. In 1988, we built a bigger house in Northridge Estates for bedrooms. 3 baths, a study, and a pool the kids adored. I loved my modern kitchen, with its double oven and avocado green appliances, but Robert's trips stretched 2-3 weeks, now covering Texas and Arizona for new housing developments. The kids got used to saying, "Dad's working in LA," and I'd nod, hiding my growing loneliness. I stayed busy to cope. Mondays for school drop-offs and groceries at Kroger. Tuesdays and Thursdays for house cleaning with help from our neighbor, Mrs. Carter. Wednesdays and Fridays for visiting mom or hosting friends for coffee and bread. Sundays were for mass, with or without Robert, followed by family dinners where I'd make mom's pot roast recipe, hoping to keep the kids grounded. Life felt full, but his absence was a quiet ache, like a bruise that never healed. In 1990, Bobby left for Ohio State to study engineering. A proud moment that left the house quieter. With him gone, Robert's absences hit harder. Clara, 16, was busy with cheerleading and AP classes. Arthur, 14, was a soccer star, always at practice. Alone in our big house, I calculated Robert's time away less than half the year with us. He seemed distracted when home, staring through Wheel of Fortune on TV or whispering on calls in his study. He swore the business was thriving, citing new contracts for LA strip malls, but his eyes didn't meet mine. I started keeping a notebook, jotting down dates he was gone, cities he mentioned, and odd details like a Chicago receipt when he'd said he was in Dallas. In March 1991, while organizing our closet, I found an LA restaurant receipt, dated a week earlier, for 2, with a handwritten note, "Happy anniversary, my love," in unfamiliar handwriting. My heart sank. Robert claimed it was a client dinner, the waiter mistaking them for a couple. His story was polished, and I let it go, feeling foolish for doubting him, but suspicion took root. His clothes carried unfamiliar scents, floral perfume, different detergent. He blamed LA dry cleaners. He grew meticulous new tailored suits, pricey cologne like Creed, gym workouts, and like the laid-back man I married. I wondered if he was trying to impress someone else. In 1992, Robert proposed a European trip for our 22nd anniversary, a dream come true. We toured Paris, Rome, and London for 2 weeks, dining at candlelit bistros, buying me silk dresses, visiting the Colosseum and Big Ben. He was the romantic husband I fell for, holding my hand as we strolled the Seine, whispering promises of forever. I fell in love again, pushing doubts aside. Later, I learned it was a calculated gesture, a lavish distraction before he leaned harder into his secret life. By 1993, his absences stretched to a month, with brief returns, sometimes just 4 days before he'd fly out again. He talked of moving us to LA after Arthur finished high school, painting a picture of a sprawling house with a pool, top colleges for the kids, and sunny days year-round. I planned excitedly, researching California schools and neighborhoods, but his promises grew vague. No firm dates, just talk of sorting out permits and finalizing contracts. I'd lie awake, wondering why he seemed so distant even when home, his laughter forced, his hugs brief. In 1995, at 49, I hit a breaking point. Robert announced a massive Arizona housing project, gated communities for retirees requiring near constant presence for 2 years. He visited only 6 times, each stay under a week. I was practically a single mom to Arthur, still in high school, while Clara, at Wittenberg University but living at home, helped with chores and emotional support. I felt like a ghost in my own life, keeping up appearances while my heart ached. Neighbors whispered, asking why Robert was always gone. I'd smile and say, "He's building our future." But inside, I was crumbling. To cope, I built my own world. I joined the church ladies group, organizing bake sales and charity drives. I took baking classes at the community college, perfecting pies and cakes, dreaming of opening a shop someday. I enrolled in Spanish lessons to connect with Springfield's growing Hispanic community, practicing phrases with my instructor, Mrs. Lopez, who became a friend. I'd spend evenings with the kids, watching Home Alone, or helping Clara with college essays, trying to keep their spirits high. A friend, Susan Miller, whose husband was in construction, noted how tough it was for non-citizens to do business without local partners. It made me question Robert's success. His explanation partnerships with American firms like Ed Sullivan's and special permits for foreign contractors sounded rehearsed, almost too perfect. In 1996, Bobby graduated and landed a job in Columbus. He mentioned meeting an LA engineer at a conference who hadn't heard of Robert's firm. Odd for someone claiming major West Coast projects. When I asked Robert, he snapped, saying the engineer didn't know every contractor in LA's sprawling market. His defensiveness was new, jarring. By 1997, his calls became erratic 3 a.m. or late evening, with excuses about time zones or site emergencies. He stopped sharing hotel numbers, insisting he'd call me from payphones to save on bills. In December 1997, Clara, now 23 and perceptive, asked point-blank if I thought Robert was cheating. She'd noticed his distraction, how he'd mumble in his sleep, once saying a name Patricia that wasn't mine. Her words were a punch to the gut. For the first time, I admitted infidelity was possible. In 1998, I turned detective. I tracked call times, noting they didn't align with LA's time zone. Some came when it was midnight there, too late for business. I found a shirt in his luggage with a Made in USA tag, not the luxury brand he claimed. In March, I searched his suitcase while he showered and found 2 used movie tickets for Titanic in LA, dated days earlier, with a receipt for a romantic dinner at a place called Musso and Frank. When confronted, he said he took a client's wife to cheer her up after a rough day, a flimsy excuse that didn't add up. I didn't fully believe him. A first in our marriage. My trust, once unbreakable, was cracking. By August 1998, I hired private investigator Frank Larson from Dayton, recommended by Susan's brother, a retired cop. I gave Frank Roberts travel dates, phone numbers, and hotel addresses, along with receipts and my notebook of inconsistencies. While waiting, I became hypervigilant, analyzing every call, gift, and word for clues. I'd lie awake, replaying our marriage, wondering how I'd missed the signs. In June 1999, Frank delivered a bombshell. No construction company was registered under Robert's name in LA. His West Coast builds was a front, with Ed Sullivan listed as the owner, but no real projects tied to Robert. Phone numbers he'd given traced to private homes, one registered to Robert and Patricia Thompson since 1985. Robert had married Patricia Jimenez in 1982, the year his LA business began. They had 3 kids, a daughter born in 1983, a son in 1986, and another daughter in 1989. Frank showed photos. Robert leaving a modest house in LA's Echo Park with a woman my age, Patricia, and 3 kids, his arm around her, smiling like a devoted husband. They attended school events, barbecues, even church together. I sobbed, consumed by rage, humiliation, and disbelief. For 17 years, Robert had juggled 2 families. His LA life was funded by Ohio profits, siphoned through fake invoices for consulting or materials to his shell company. He'd bought Patricia a $300,000 home, paid off by 1990, and funded private schools for their kids. All while I thought he was building our future. Our Ohio account was kept just full enough to maintain our lifestyle, with Mr. Jenkins cooking the books to hide the transfers. Robert's double life was a masterpiece of deception, built on lies, and my blind trust. Frank uncovered more. Patricia knew about me, writing Robert letters found in his LA home demanding he divorce his Ohio wife to make us legitimate. She believed I was a temporary arrangement, a means to fund their life until Robert could get free. I was devastated, not just by Robert's betrayal, but by the realization that another woman saw me as disposable. I didn't confront Robert, heeding Frank's advice to gather more evidence for an airtight legal case. For 2 months, I played the devoted wife, smiling through dinners while burning with fury inside. I told Clara and Arthur the truth. They were heartbroken but fierce in their support. Clara, with her sharp mind, helped me organize evidence. Arthur Texavy digitized receipts and photos. My sister Linda and Mom, now 78 and frail but fiery, were outraged, vowing to stand by me. Dad had passed in 1994, but I felt his strength guiding me. Between September 1999 and February 2000, I planned a revenge to shatter Robert's pristine image. I hired top divorce lawyer James Carter, who confirmed Robert's crimes: bigamy, fraud, and misappropriation of marital funds. The evidence was damning: marriage certificates, bank records, photos, Patricia's letters, but I wanted more than money or a quiet divorce. I wanted public humiliation. Robert thrived on admiration, charming clients and neighbors with his family man persona. I decided to expose him at our 30th anniversary party in August 2000, disguised as a vow renewal celebration, in front of everyone he'd fooled. I told Robert I wanted a grand event to celebrate 3 decades of love. He was thrilled, eager to bask in the spotlight, oblivious to my plan. I opened a secret bank account, stashing household funds and money from selling jewelry he'd given my ironic since some were likely bought with our money for his lies. I gathered more evidence, bank statements showing $450,000 diverted to LA over 15 years, photos of Robert coaching his LA Suns Little League team, even a Christmas card from Patricia's family, signed, Love, the Thompsons. I planned my future, dreaming of opening a bakery with my settlement, a place to rebuild my identity. In January 2000, Robert visited, and I played the doting wife. Discussing the party with enthusiasm, he suggested renting Springfield's finest venue and hiring a top band, thinking it'd boost his image. I agreed, hiding my true intent. I rented the Grand Ballroom at the Heritage Center for 200 guests, booked the Ohio River Band, ordered a 3-tier vanilla cake with roses, and sent elegant invitations for our vow renewal. Secretly, I hired an AV tech to set up a projector for a memory slideshow and a photographer to capture Robert's downfall, knowing the images would spread like wildfire in Springfield. By July, everything was ready. I'd prepared a 1-hour presentation, exposing Robert's double-life photos, documents, time. James, my lawyer, would attend with divorce papers, a compensation demand, and a restraining order. Clara and Arthur helped rehearse my speech, ensuring I'd stay calm under pressure. Linda organized guests, RSVPs, keeping the true purpose secret. Mom, despite her health, insisted on attending, saying, "I want to see that snake squirm." I spent sleepless nights perfecting every detail, fueled by a mix of pain and determination. This wasn't just about MIT, it was for my kids, who'd lost a father to his lies, and for every woman who'd been betrayed. On August 15, 2000, our 30th anniversary, I woke at 5 a.m. Calm but resolute. Robert, back from LA, was elated, strutting in a new suit, unaware of the trap. I spent the morning overseeing details: white roses on tables, catered roast beef and mashed potatoes, a playlist of our old favorites. At the salon, I chose a navy blue dress, elegant but understated, and wore the pearl necklace Robert gave me for our 10th anniversary, of bitter irony, as he'd likely bought it with money meant for our family. At 6 p.m., we greeted guests, family, friends, neighbors, Robert's colleagues, church ladies, even the mayor. Robert was the charming host, shaking hands, telling jokes, basking in admiration. I smiled beside him, my heart pounding but my face serene. At 8:30, after dinner, I took the mic, thanking everyone for celebrating 30 years of love. I announced a slideshow of our life together. Dimming the lights, the screen lit up with sweet memories: our 1970 wedding, Bobby's first steps, Clara's ballet recitals, Arthur's soccer games. Robert smiled, waving to guests, oblivious. Then, the screen shifted, Robert leaving his LA house with Patricia, arm around her, their 3 kids trailing behind. The room froze, Robert's face drained of color, his eyes wide with dread. "Dear friends and family," I said, voice steady, "this is the true story of our marriage, uncovered just months ago." Photos rolled, Robert with Patricia at their kids' birthdays, school plays, church picnics in LA, while I thought he was working. Documents followed: his 1982 marriage certificate to Patricia, birth certificates of their kids, bank records showing $450,000 diverted to their LA home, private schools, and cars. I detailed his 18-year lie, how he prioritized his other family while I raised ours alone, believing he was building our future. I showed Patricia's letters, her cruel words calling me his Ohio convenience, demanding he leave me to make their family whole. Guests gasped, some cried, others glared at Robert. He tried to grab the mic, stammering, "This is a mistake," but my brother Tommy and Bobby blocked him, their faces like stone. I continued, voice rising, while our kids asked when Daddy was coming home. He was coaching his other son's baseball team, buying his other daughter's dresses, living a life he stole from us. I showed a photo of him at a 1998 Christmas party laughing with Patricia, while I'd spent that Christmas alone, telling the kids he was stuck on a job site. Robert stood, trembling, pleading, "Mary Ellen, I can explain. I've always loved you most." The room booed, his colleagues turning away in disgust. I stepped forward, eyes locked on his. "Robert, all you need to explain is how you'll sign the divorce papers my lawyer has ready and compensate our kids for the years you stole." James handed him the papers, divorce terms demanding half his assets, lifelong alimony, and repayment of the diverted funds, plus a restraining order. Robert begged, tears streaming, but no one listened. His best friend, John Reynolds, called him a disgrace. Humiliated, he fled with Frank, the investigator, who ensured he signed the papers that night before disappearing. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Springfield buzzed with the story. People stopped me at the grocery store, church, even the gas station, offering hugs and support. Church ladies brought casseroles and pies. Neighbors checked on me daily. Clara and Arthur were my rocks, fielding calls and visitors, shielding me from gossip. Robert tried contacting me, sending flowers, letters, even a desperate voicemail swearing he'd make it right. I communicated only through James, refusing to let his words sway me. The divorce moved fast. His crimes were undeniable, backed by ironclad evidence. By September 2000, I got the Northridge house, half his assets, including his Ohio business accounts, lifelong alimony, and a court order forcing him to repay the $450,000 diverted to LA, which left Patricia's family scrambling to keep their home. I sold the big house, too full of memories, and bought a cozy bungalow in Springfield's historic district, near the old arcade. Clara helped me decorate bright yellow walls, floral curtains, a kitchen with a vintage stove for my baking experiments. With my settlement, I opened Mary Ellen's Sweet Traditions in 2001, a bakery specializing in homemade pineapple pecan, cherry and buttery cookies that sold out daily. It became a local gem, not just for the food but as a haven where women shared stories over coffee, finding strength in each other. By 2003, I had 4 employees and supplied local cafes like the Coffee House. My bakery was my rebirth, a testament to my resilience. But the journey wasn't easy. The first months after the divorce were raw. I'd wake up crying, haunted by memories of Robert's laugh, our early years, the lies I'd believed. Clara moved back home temporarily, sleeping in my guest room, holding my hand through panic attacks. Arthur, now 24, took me to therapy, where I learned to process the betrayal without letting it define me. Linda and Mom were my cheerleaders, reminding me I was more than Robert's wife. I leaned on my church ladies group, who shared their own stories of heartbreak with infidelity, loss, helping me feel less alone. In 2001, at 55, I took Spanish classes to connect with Springfield's Hispanic community, a bold step to expand my world. I practiced with Mrs. Lopez, who invited me to her family's quinceañera, where I danced and laughed for the first time in years. I traveled solo to San Antonio to visit my cousin Maria, a terrifying but liberating experience. Walking the river, walk alone, I felt a spark of independence I'd never known. Later, I explored New York, marveling at Times Square, and Miami, where I dipped my toes in the ocean, feeling alive. In 2003, I took a Caribbean cruise with Betty and Joan, sipping piña coladas under the stars, toasting to new beginnings. These trips weren't just vacations, they were proof I could thrive on my own. I formed a tight circle of women, friends, divorced or widowed like me. Susan Miller, a widow who'd lost her husband to cancer, taught me to manage finances, set up a retirement fund, and embrace independence. We met weekly at my bakery, sharing dinners, taking dance classes, or planning group trips to places like Gatlinburg or Niagara Falls. These women became my family, lifting me up when I doubted myself. In 2004, I met Dr. Henry Watson, a retired pediatrician from Dayton, at a church fundraiser. At 62, he was kind, honest, with a gentle laugh that warmed me. Unlike Robert, he shared everything: his past, his dreams, even his fears of growing old alone after losing his wife to illness. We dated cautiously for 2 years, enjoying quiet dinners, walks in Dayton's Caroline Park, and talks about life. In 2006, he proposed, kneeling in his garden with a simple sapphire ring. I wasn't ready to remarry, cherishing my freedom, so we agreed to live together part-time, splitting days between Springfield and Dayton. It was perfect love without losing myself. Today, at 68, I'm happier than I've ever been. My kids are thriving. Bobby, 38, is a senior engineer in Columbus, married to Sarah, with a 4-year-old son. Ethan, who calls me Nana and loves my chocolate chip cookies. Clara, 36, is a therapist in Springfield, married to Mark, with 2 kids, Lily, 8, and Noah, 6, who spend weekends baking with me. Arthur, 32, runs a financial consultancy in Cincinnati. Engaged to his partner Emily, expecting their first child, they cut ties with Robert after learning the full extent of his lies. Unable to forgive how he'd robbed them of a father's presence, they've told me they're proud of me. Not just for surviving, but for showing them what strength looks like. Robert's life fell apart. His Ohio business collapsed as clients dropped him, repulsed by his scandal. Patricia left him in 2003 when the money dried up. Feeling betrayed by his lies about me, she thought she was his real wife. By 2008, he was a low-level accountant in LA, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, estranged from his LA kids, who blamed him for their uprooted lives. I feel a distant pity. He had 2 families, 2 chances at love, and threw it all away for ego and greed. My bakery grew. Opening a second location in Urbana in 2010, I published Ohio Sweet Traditions, a cookbook of my desserts. In 2012, which became a regional bestseller, stocked in local libraries and bookstores, my shop became a sanctuary for women healing from betrayal, divorcees, widows, survivors of infidelity. They'd sit at my counter, sipping coffee, sharing stories of cheating husbands or broken dreams, finding solace in knowing they weren't alone. In 2015, with Susan and my church group, I started a weekly support group at St. Joseph's for women facing divorce or heartbreak. We've helped dozens find lawyers, jobs, or just the courage to keep going. One woman, Diane, told me my story inspired her to leave an abusive marriage and start a catering business. Another, Rachel, went back to school at 50 to become a nurse. These victories feel like mine. My grandkids know my story, told in age-appropriate ways. Lily and Noah see me as Nana the brave, a woman who doesn't tolerate lies. I hope it shapes them to value honesty and strength. Ethan, Bobby's son, draws me pictures of pies, saying he'll work at my bakery one day. These moments heal the wounds Robert left. Reflecting on this journey, I've learned truths I need to share. First, it's never too late to restart. At 53, I thought my life was over, but my best years came after the betrayal. I found I was stronger, smarter, more capable than I'd ever imagined, running a business, traveling the world, loving again on my terms. Second, women must keep financial and emotional independence, no matter how secure marriage seems. I gave Robert total control, trusting his business savvy, which left me vulnerable. Young women, study, work, save, keep your own friends and passions. A good man wants you strong, not dependent. Check bank statements, ask questions, know where the money goes. Your future may depend on it. Third, forgiveness isn't excusing the unforgivable. Robert's 18-year betrayal lies, stolen money, a secret family can't be undone. I forgave myself for missing the signs, for trusting too much, and let go of anger to heal, not for him, but for me. Holding on to hate only hurts you. Fourth, a sisterhood is your lifeline. My daughter, sister, mom, and friends carried me through the darkest days. Women understand betrayal's unique sting. Share your pain. Lean on each other. Uplift those still climbing out of hurt. My bakery's counter became a sacred space for these connections. Fifth, revenge, done right, restores dignity. Exposing Robert wasn't just about his pen. It showed Springfield that women aren't silent victims. It gave hope to others, proving you can fight back, rebuild, and thrive. My story spread beyond our town, with local papers covering the Springfield scandal, inspiring women I'd never met to demand better. Sixth, trust your instincts. If something feels off, a late call, a strange receipt, a gut twist, don't ignore it. I spent years silencing my doubts, afraid of rocking the boat. Dig deeper, ask hard questions, demand truth. You deserve honesty and respect, no matter how long you've been married. Finally, life after betrayal is a canvas you paint. I could have stayed broken, defined by Robert's lies, but I chose to create my bakery, my travels, my friendships, my love with Henry. 2 women in tough marriages. Listen to that inner voice. If it's screaming something's wrong, investigate. To those facing divorce, the pain is brutal, but beyond it lies a stronger, truer you. Don't rush to be completed by someone else. Discover yourself first. The world is bursting with possibilities for women who dare, at any age. Thank you for hearing my story. I hope it lights a fire in you or someone you know. Like, subscribe, comment where you're watching from. I read everyone, and they keep me going. Take care. value yourself, and know you can write your own story, no matter how it starts. With love from Springfield, Ohio, this is Mary Ellen. God bless. Until next time.